Hello to the wonderful few that might stumble across this. And by we I mean I, stumbled across a Breath of the Wild video, and it's been a long time since I've done any kind of video or response. The last time was Temple and Institute, which was humorous. But me and Aura beat Tears of the Kingdom, and me and him, while we disagree on some things, we agree on that Tears of the Kingdom is not good. It's not great. I'll say that. Would that be fair, Aura?
It is a game.
It is one of the games of all time. So I saw this video, I watched it, and it's pretty goofy, and we're gonna respond to it. I don't know this channel. He very well might make other content that's good. I might agree with him 99% of all the time. That's not this video, but we're here, so we're gonna jump right into it.
I think the biggest difference between Breath of the
And we're just gonna pause generally whenever we have something to say. Probably.
Wild and Tears of the Kingdom can be summed up in a single word: density. Tears of the Kingdom has a far denser world than Breath of the Wild did.
Yeah, that's true. I would say that's fair.
It is more dense.
It is more dense. I would not say that density is necessarily a good thing, considering a lot of it's more dumbass fucking Koroks.
I've seen people describe Breath of the Wild's world as empty, and I don't think that's totally fair. Breath of the Wild's world contained at least 100 hours worth of content, of puzzles and collectibles and side quests. But what can make it feel empty is that all of that content was very spread apart. Much of my time...
And that's also true. Breath of the Wild was thin. Not the... It was spread out. I think that's fair.
When the game was spent journeying towards my objectives, quietly traveling through a beautiful but barren post-apocalyptic world. It was a tranquil and slow-paced game. On the other hand, Tears of the Kingdom...
And that's kind of the reason, though. I think it's fair to say it was a slow, kind of empty world, because it was a post-apocalyptic fantasy.
Which was fine.
Which is fine.
Kingdom is such a
also the engine problems of developing that game.
Its world is absolutely filled with so many things to do. In the early game, I felt like
filled with so many things to do, Aura, like build a cart, build an airplane, fight enemy at camp,
Fight enemy on top of Talus.
Very amazing. Get bullshitted by the stupid fucking Lionel.
I couldn't take 20 steps without running into another new puzzle or minigame or side quest. One of the first...
I don't think that's true. But I may have had a different experience with this game.
Objectives I set for myself was Rito Village. The first people I wanted to visit were my old avian pals.
And you
Man already shows lack of judgment.
You went to the Rito first as well, didn't you?
I wanted to get him out of the way.
I wanted to see my beautiful brown waifus first, so that's where I went again.
Mm-hmm.
If you take a straight shot from Hyrule Field to Rito Village, you can get there in under 10 minutes. It should be a quick journey, but it took...
At least she finally put a ring on it.
Took me nearly 30 hours of playtime to reach the Rito, because every 20 steps I got distracted by something else. Another shrine, another tower, another side quest, another minigame, another
ADD is a real problem.
Puzzle,
I know.
Another monster den, another cave, another well, another chasm. And usually those distractions would lead directly to other distractions. And so 5 hours later, I'd somehow end up on the opposite side of the map from my original objective.
How the fuck do you do that, though? Like, sit there go, yes, my goal is to go here, and then end up on the other side of the map. That seems a bit more of a you problem than... or how to put this? That just seems like a lack of commitment problem.
Oh, I just like when he... Well, it'll get down to it later. But when he explains that he didn't actually do much of anything. And he just took all this time doing... I'm not sure.
Oh my.
This was my entire experience of playing Tears of the Kingdom. It always felt like there was too much to do.
These quests were fun, actually.
They were.
Kind of annoyed that they can't actually, like, take any damage or die or anything, but
The only time I actually got them to follow me in was in one of the Goron caves.
yeah, basically what kept happening to me is I would, outside of Fort Hatino, I would drop in, because why wouldn't you just fly? Because horses are worthless.
Mm-hmm.
I
In
would
this
just,
game, anyway.
yeah, I would just fly in from above and break the shit out of the thing, and then like halfway through it, they would appear.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just really, the first time it happened, I was just really confused.
First time it happened to me, I didn't even know they were there. I just walked outside and they were sitting there in a camp, and I'm like, oh,
It's a shame the Blood Moon gets rid of this progress and stuff, but
true.
It took me over 100 hours just to beat the game, and I didn't come close to completing
Here it
all of
is.
the shrines or side quests or upgrading everything I could upgrade. I never even defeated a single one of those Gleeoks. These
Not even a base Gleeok.
yeah, I'll admit it took me a while to fight the Gleeok, but I was also doing a lot.
That's because they can one-shot you.
Well, yeah, the first time
yeah.
I tried to fight a Gleeok the first time when I had 4 hearts.
Mm-hmm.
Or 5, no, I was up to 6 hearts at that point. It was a lightning Gleeok in the Colosseum. It didn't go well.
These freaking 3-headed laser beam dragons.
Why does he say a laser beam dragon? Like, it's not hard to figure out. It's the ice, lightning, or fire. Maybe I'm being
He
pedantic.
never beat
but,
one.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, turns out this isn't even
He
his footage.
spent all his time. I don't even think he played. Honestly, like, you listen to what he says.
Yeah, he says a lot of nothing.
He says a lot of nothing, and it's all just beginning gameplay. And a couple shrines, which are... You can do them in any order, so they are all technically beginning gameplay.
I think there's one you need the flight suit to get, but
No, I don't think so.
I might be wrong. I didn't bother with all the shrines because...
I said shrines. I meant the boss dungeons.
Oh, yeah, no, you don't need anything to do any of those because
No.
this game is...
He said he didn't even do all the shrines.
Yeah.
But
I
he
didn't do the
doesn't know,
shrines
like,
either, so...
Like, what did he spend all his time on? Wandering around and getting Koroks?
I
Something
don't
to think about.
You can't be like me.
I beat it, got all the shrines, did all the chasm, which I know you did too.
Yep.
And it did not take me over 100 hours to do all this.
I was a little, I think, over 100 hours, but I was also leaving the game on when I was doing other shit.
Oh, well, that doesn't even count.
Yeah. I also did the majority of the chasm with very little hearts and no sage spells, so traversal was not made easier.
I did the chasm a little later.
But we'll get to the chasm more when he gets to it.
Yep.
I cannot even guess how long it would take to 100% complete everything in this game. Tears of the Kingdom is not only one of the biggest video games ever made, it is one of the densest. And in this way, Tears of the Kingdom has
Look at that. He accidentally killed himself by accidentally climbing on a rock. Good gameplay.
fixed one of Breath
It is
of
a
the Wild's
strange...
greatest flaws. That feeling of...
It is strange to pick that to showcase a Gleeok.
I think he was trying to show how strong Gleeok is, but that's just bad gameplay.
Yeah, that's just fucking
You just
up.
walk into something and you immediately latch on.
Which, to be fair, that is a thing that happens, and to everyone who plays this game, is you'll be running around and Link will just decide, hey, I'm gonna grab whatever the fuck I'm next to. And you're like, I wasn't... You were supposed to run over it, Link.
You're panicking, trying to let go, and that happens.
Yeah.
And obviously it's not just us, because it just happened to this dolt.
Yeah, so it's not... It's not the footage I would have used to make a Gleeok seem scary, but once you figure out... Once you told me the stupid trick to kill Gleeoks, they're not scary at all, so...
No.
They're actually kind of retard-proof.
You just have to grind a little bit. We'll get to that at some point.
Yeah.
of emptiness or shallowness that the original game had. I think Tears of the Kingdom managed to fix or at least improve upon every single one of Breath of the Wild's biggest flaws. Tears of the Kingdom is such a massive improvement over the original that I worry that it has actually made...
So, he says, we're gonna back that up just a teeny bit. I'm gonna make sure I got this right.
that the original game had. I think Tears of the Kingdom managed to fix or at least improve upon every single one of Breath of the Wild's biggest flaws.
So Tears of the Kingdom is going to fix all of Breath of the Wild's mistakes. Or pretend you haven't seen this video yet. Do you think he's going to change your mind?
Not even a little bit.
Is it because you also play Tears of the Kingdom?
That's because I also played Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
And I think he's full of it.
Well, maybe we both watched the video incorrectly earlier. Let's find out.
Maybe.
Tears of the Kingdom is such a massive improvement over the original that I worry that it has actually made Breath of the Wild kind of irrelevant. Tears of the Kingdom is such a better game. Is anyone going to choose to play Breath of the Wild anymore when they can play its much improved sequel instead? So,
I'm sorry. This man said sequel. This game isn't a sequel to Breath of the Wild.
No.
They even say so.
It's not a sequel to Breath of the Wild. This isn't a sequel at all. It's a standalone game.
This is a sequel to a game that never came out.
Yep. Which is a shame.
They want this to be a standalone game that has nothing to do with Breath of the Wild.
Which goes against all their marketing, but...
Mm-hmm. This is why characters refuse to refer to Link, why it feels like you've done nothing in the game, and why you don't get any of the same things like the Sheikah Slate like you do in the other game. They got rid of all of that to try to erase it. Just to say, hey, you don't have to know anything about Breath of the Wild to play our new game. You know, the sequel? Rant over.
This is literally the worst aspect of this game, is the fact that it's not a sequel, but it wears the skin of one.
People refuse to believe that either.
Yeah. It's like, motherfuckers, did you pay attention?
They can't read. You think they're going to pay attention to?
No. I'm disappointed in humanity.
Yeah.
So, to begin this discussion of how Tears of the Kingdom improved upon its predecessor, I want to list off what I think were Breath of the Wild's 5 greatest flaws.
And right there, he has just done at least a fourth of all the content of this game.
Mm-hmm.
This stupid fucking Koroks. I need to reach my friend! You know...
I think that's even more than a fourth.
If I'm including all the side quests and stuff of the game, too. And main quest. And memories. I'm including everything. I would say these are probably a fourth. At least it feels like it, because
Maybe.
Enough of them are so inconvenient and out of the way, it's a pain in the ass. It makes you want to bash your head in against a wall.
And for a while, you don't even need them anymore.
Nah, I didn't even bother getting close to max Koroks. I'm so done with it.
Finding out you get another shiny poo.
Yeah, that kind of kills any and all care.
Get enough to be comfortable with my inventory. And I never want to see him again.
Yeah.
I don't even want to waste my time trying to mutilate them on a crucifix or whatever other help, like therapeutic help that you need to get through the game.
Just be gone with it.
Rocking them into the sun.
Terrible, awful Koroks.
First, a rushed and underbaked main quest line with repetitive dungeons. Second, a lack of compelling...
Repetitive dungeons, he says.
He says that. We're going to rewind just a second. I want to make sure we get this in context, so we're not accused of cutting him off.
Discussion of how Tears of the Kingdom improved upon its predecessor. I want to list off what I think were Breath of the Wild's 5 greatest flaws.
Alright, you ready, Aura? 5 greatest flaws of Breath of the Wild.
5.
First, a rushed and underbaked main quest line with repetitive dungeons.
I would say, while it might be underbaked, I would say it's a serviceable main quest line, though.
Mm-hmm.
Second, a lack of compelling side quests.
A lack of compelling side quests? I think that's probably a fair argument.
Speaking of only Breath of the Wild, yes. That's fair.
I'm only referring to Breath of the Wild here.
Third, simplistic and easy shrines.
That's true. A lot of the shrines were pretty easy.
Fourth, a lack of variety in environments.
For the Constellation
and
one.
Fifth,
I'm ashamed to figure out to mention how long that took me. Here's a hint, dear viewer. More than an hour, because it was so simple I couldn't figure it out.
It took me a minute.
Yeah,
Well,
it took Aura all of a
figuratively.
minute and a half to be like, oh, this is what I do. I sat there bashing my head in for like 10
Yeah.
minutes, left, and then came back later, and then another amount of time went by, and I was just like, what am I doing?
You see, viewers, I enjoy puzzle games, which is why Zelda has always been a great game for me. Not only do I get combat, but I actually get to think a little bit.
I'm usually not that stupid, dear viewer, but for some odd reason, my brain just went, yeah. But,
You're never gonna
simplest.
catch me, I'm all greased up.
And he's about to say, Breath of the Wild didn't have many enemy varieties. Also true. Also a problem.
Lack of variety in enemies. Notice I did not include weapon degradation on that list. I will discuss weapon degradation separately at the end of the video. So let's start with the first flaw, a rushed and underbaked main quest line with repetitive dungeons.
Alright, let's get to this main quest line. You ready, Aura?
I'm as about ready as I'm gonna be.
Alright.
As much as I loved its world and its gameplay, I was often disappointed by Breath of the Wild's main quest lines. There just wasn't enough to them. You could complete them all very quickly. For example, for the Rito questline in Breath of the Wild, all you do is show up, play a single minigame, and then it throws you straight into the Divine Beast. The whole thing can be completed in less than 10 minutes. The Divine Beast Va-Meadow isn't even really a problem. All it's doing is flying around in circles. It never feels like a serious threat or like it's causing any crisis.
That shows me he didn't pay attention.
That shows me he didn't play the game.
Now,
Like, what about the whole having to go to the shooting range and learn how to fly? And so that's all part of the main quest.
yeah, I think he counted that as just the mini games when he said that, but
I don't think he did, because the mini game I think he's referring to is shooting the shield off.
oh yeah, maybe. But
I don't think he played.
my big thing when he says I don't think he paid attention because he says all Va-Meadow did was fly around.
Right.
Where when you go to the Rito village, there's very few adult males left, and if you ask around, the children will tell you that all their daddies went to go investigate why Va-Meadow started moving, and then they didn't come back
He was shooting them down.
because they're
Killing
dead.
them.
That's why they also didn't want Teba to go back up there, because he's pretty much one of their only capable fighters left.
They needed him on the ground in case something happened.
Yes. And with the Red Moon rising and monsters on the rise because of the calamity, he's very much needed there. And then you sit there and go, oh dear, they didn't have to actually spell it out for me that Va-Meadow has just killed a whole bunch of civilians. But it did. Va-Meadow was extraordinarily dangerous. That's something that Breath of the Wild did, I think, very well, is letting you know the dangers of these divine beasts without having to write it out for you.
Ryan,
Unfortunately,
it's too hard for people to read between the lines.
I'm aware. As this and many other videos have shown me, people cannot pick these things up.
Or read.
Or do much of anything. It's the reason Velcro shoes got popular.
By
I like
comparison,
TV.
in Tears of the Kingdom, when you reach Rito Village, you find a town that is being buried beneath the ice and cold. A village whose very existence is under threat. This is a serious...
Yeah, look how threatened they are. They're just playing in the snow.
Let's sing. We're ready. We're not offended at all. We just wore slightly warmer clothing.
And the Rito already lived in a frosted landscape because they could handle the cold. And it's not like it's a winter that's spreading all over Hyrule or anything. It's literally just stuck where it was already cold. Not a great plan by our dear Demon Lord Ganondorf.
And you find out that getting rid of the threat only gets rid of the snow in a small area.
Yeah, it didn't... I think giant mechanical machine god flying around, killing all, most of your adult male population, a bit more threatening than some snow. Ooh, but it ruins the trade. If the Rito weren't so stupid, they could just build another bridge. It's not like it was causing crazy windstorms or anything.
Since this game isn't a sequel, we don't even know if they had trade.
That's true. There's also a bunch of adult males running around, therefore more evidence that this is not a sequel to Breath of the Wild.
problem that needs to be solved. There is urgency in this quest.
How are things going, mister? The sense of urgency is insane.
True.
There are actual stakes. From the village, you have to track down first Hearth and then Tulin, both of whom draw you deeper and deeper into the dangerous.
Hearth, everybody's favorite emo.
Hearth, I couldn't stop laughing when I came across him. He was so goofy looking. And I don't like Teba's son. I don't like Tommy Pickles.
True. I wish he walked the same way.
Caverns. And when you find Tulin, you launch into this completely crazy, massive open-air platforming section where you and your adorably cute bird boy partner ascend high.
That's just a weird thing to say, but this section is fun.
That's why I think it's funny that he picked this one specifically to talk about, because he wouldn't have been able to say that about the other three.
Let's see. Getting up to the water temple is boring and shitty.
Mm-hmm. Literally.
Goron, yes. The Goron temple is not fun. It's
Getting up to the temple isn't bad, but once you get to the temple, it is dumb.
because you have to fight Yunobo first, and that's, granted, it takes all of 2 seconds to beat his ass. That little section's fun. Seeing the Gorons all fucked out of their mind on cocaine is pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 3-headed boss fight on top of Death Mountain, also pretty good.
Right.
So
Goron
Goron area, pretty good. Until you get to the temple itself, because the temple is ass.
You mean the lost city of the Gorons that wasn't an actual city, but one building that they wouldn't have been able to thrive and survive in?
Correct. The Gerudo area was also fun to do shit in. The temple was a little lackluster, but it looked good. So, yeah, he purposely picked this area because this area is easily the best in terms of a neat way to get to the temple. I'm going to rewind it just a second.
Crazy, massive open-air platforming section where you and your adorably cute bird boy partner ascend higher and higher into the sky until you rise above this gargantuan cyclone and dive down through its middle to reach this area's dungeon. This whole quest line is awesome. It's so much fun.
It's awesome. I'm sorry, the way you pronounce that just is mildly amusing.
To do. It takes thought and effort and time to complete in a way that Breath of the Wild.
How much thought did it take to complete?
You have to run and jump, and as we're about to see in this little point of gameplay here, he can't figure out the correct way to go.
Wild's quest line didn't. It's exciting and creative.
He tries to outfly one of the ships.
Yes,
he's very smart.
And the characters in interesting ways. And this applies to all of Tears of the Kingdom's main quest lines. The Gorons.
Nope. The gameplay does it. So, no, the Goron area is fucking terrible. It's bad for different reasons than Breath of the Wild. Because Breath of the Wild Goron area was annoying because you either had the fire suit or constantly chugged down the fire elixirs. Both of which was annoying.
So the Zora, the Gerudo.
The Zora area is just shit all around, literally. And the Gerudo area is fun, and it's probably my favorite of the 4 areas, but I'm biased.
I hate sand.
It's coarse and rough, and it gets everywhere.
And the Spirit Sage all have
No, the Spirit Sage area is fucking stupid. How dare you?
Also, spoilers, sir.
Spoilers. The Spirit Sage area is so awesome. You have to sit there and do really stupid puzzles, and you have to do it 4 times. It's so cool. Or you do what I did, or watch me do this. You just break the puzzles because the Build-A-Bear mechanic is fucking stupid and broken.
Equally interesting, equally creative,
They are not equally creative and interesting.
No, they're not.
The Goron Temple is up its own ass with the stupid rail car system, which was already in Breath of the Wild. I would say done better because it didn't need the stupid Zonai crap. Although it did need bombs, so maybe that's a problem. The Gerudo area was at least the giant sandstorm, and then you had the giant cavern to go through to find Riju, and then you had to go to the temple itself. You know, not a
I
breakthrough,
found I
but
found Riju on accident.
yeah, or you could just find redraw on accident. Not like a complicated puzzle or a series of events to get to there, but fun nonetheless. Ritu area was fun, and yeah, going around in Zora areas kind of sucked,
Mm-hmm.
especially their temples.
Equally serious, equally interactive quest lines. It is a vast improvement over Breath of the Wild. And next we have the dungeon.
Did you say they were equally serious?
I missed that part.
Let's listen.
Gorons, the Zora, the Gerudo, and the Spirit Sage all have equally interesting, equally creative, equally serious, equally
Yes, it does.
interactive quest lines. It is a vast improvement over Breath of the Wild. And next,
Equally serious. So what's the big serious calamity for the Rito? It's gotten about 10 degrees colder in Tears of the Kingdom.
Colder and they don't know why.
It's slightly colder. Okay, what was happening in Breath of the Wild? Oh, there's a giant mechanical god that's raining death upon us if we start flying too close.
That you can see and is all the more menacing.
And that is flying above us at all times, and it may descend at any moment. We have no idea. Okay, I'll give that one to Breath of the Wild in terms of stakes. In seriousness. Okay, Water Temple. In Breath of the Wild, the Water Temple the Divine Beast freezes you, and Zora can't handle ice if you get too close to it, so they don't know what to do, and it's causing a constant superstorm to go off, so no Hylians are able to even get up there, or are having trouble getting up there, plus the absurd amounts of monsters that are up there now. And the dam is filling up and is about to collapse, which will completely fuck up a good chunk of Hyrule. That seems pretty serious to me.
Sure.
What's the threat of the Water Temple? It's pooping.
Mm-hmm.
There's some poop.
Blood poop.
There's some poop, and it's on the ground.
It doesn't even hurt you.
Oh, is it spreading? No. Is it causing the water supply to be tainted? I don't think there's anything that ever says that. It's just poo.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Let's go with the Gorons. Divine Beast Varudania. If I'm remembering correctly, it's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's raining meteors and causing the volcano to get more aggravated.
And it's hotter.
And it's hotter than it's been before.
Mm.
Alright, that's pretty serious. What's the fire temple doing? It gave the Gorons crack.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks for the Gorons, but in terms of the Greater Hyrule, that doesn't really do anything. It's not like Goron blacksmiths are everywhere. So, I'll give Breath of the Wild Varudani. Let's go with the Gerudo now. In Breath of the Wild, the giant robot god is making a super sandstorm and electrocuting the fuck out of anyone who gets close to it. Granted, it's staying in one area. Okay, that sucks for the Gerudo, but that's also located to just the Gerudo Desert. And in the Lightning Temple, what does it do? Well, it's causing a whole bunch of new monsters to pop up all over the desert, and it's also causing a superstorm. And these monsters might migrate to Whiter Hyrule. So I'll grant that one to Tears of the Kingdom.
We finally get a Tears of the Kingdom scary.
Yeah, we got 1 out of 4. It's neat.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking stupid. And I'm not counting the Spirit Temple because the Spirit Temple isn't doing anything.
No.
It has a robot locked away in it. It was never going to come out if Link didn't go there.
No.
Actually, no, I can't even say that. It never would have gone there if the Spirit Sage never went there.
Mm-hmm. The Spirit Sage hadn't have made it.
Yeah.
Equally serious, equally interactive quest lines. It is a vast improvement over Breath of the Wild. And next we have the dungeons. In Breath of the Wild, the classic Zelda series dungeons were replaced by the 4 divine beasts. instead of an intricately designed series of puzzle-filled rooms that connect together in really clever and smart ways. The Divine Beasts were these large, open, mechanical spaces that combined Breath of the Wild's player freedom-focused gameplay with the clever puzzle design of previous games' dungeons. I actually thought the Divine Beasts were well designed and I enjoyed them all, but I also found them to be repetitive. The 4 Divine Beasts were very similar to each other. In some ways, it felt like you were completing the same basic dungeon 4 different times. And like a lot of longtime fans, I missed
The 4 divine beasts are all similar to each other. Where have I seen that before? Could it be that each of the dungeons are similar and you have to find a set amount of keys in order to unlock an area? Over and
Wow.
over and over again?
4 to 5 times, even.
4 to 5 times? With it culminating in the Spirit Temple, where you have to find 4 things?
And then walk.
A lot?
Now, I'm not going to defend the Breath of the Divine Beast as the greatest temples in Zelda history, because they're not.
I did not much care for them.
I personally
I
liked
preferred
them,
the dungeons.
but I also prefer the dungeons. And I'm not going to pretend that all of the Lightning Temple and the Air Temple were bad in Tears of the Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
The Fire Temple and the Water Temple in Tears of the Kingdom are ass, but the other two are fine.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, even the Spirit Temple... actually, no, the Spirit Temple's ass too, just because it's literally like one room.
Mm.
Although getting down to Ganon was pretty great in both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And the random cavern you can go through to get underneath Hyrule Castle in Tears of the Kingdom is also great.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, it's not like Tears of the Kingdom has all bad dungeons. It's just 3 of the main ones are bad.
Oof.
Out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
6.
That would be flunking for school.
Yes. Although you could argue that the 2 good temples in Tears of the Kingdom are better than even the better temples in Breath of the Wild.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I will give it to Tears of the Kingdom for actually having dungeons instead of this.
Yeah.
One thing that made me happy, but too many other steps backwards.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
same basic dungeon 4 different times. And like a lot of longtime fans, I missed the more structured dungeon designs of previous games. Tears of the Kingdom's temples contain vastly more variety than Breath of the Wild's divine beasts.
No, they don't. So they really pick up four to 5 things.
Mm-hmm.
Click a button, move on.
Every single one of these temples feels totally different and distinct from all the others, not just in visual style, but in the kinds of puzzles you will solve within them.
Alright, let's talk about the visual style. The Divine Beast have a lore reason for all being very similar. They're all made by the ancient Sheikah.
Mm-hmm.
The Divine Temple, or the temples in Tears of the Kingdom, don't all share the same look. I'll give them that. Although I'm still curious as to why the Goron city is a single building.
Mm-hmm.
How you navigate the dungeons. For example, the Spirit Temple is all about the Ultra Hand ability, about crafting your own mechanical devices in order to navigate.
Is this thing off center right there?
Mm-hmm. He's on like a rock or something.
These ruined
On the left
cavernous
side.
spaces. There's still a lot of player freedom. You can still approach the challenges in whatever order you want, and how you solve the puzzles is largely up to you. And it still isn't really the same as the Zelda dungeon designs of older games.
Just falls
but the
back
puzzles
off.
feel far
That'd be
more
pretty funny.
structured and
I absolutely
rigorous
hated
than
the room he
Divine
was in.
Beasts,
I tried
and in
doing
a
it
way
the way
that's
it intended.
ultimately really
I didn't do any of those rooms the way they were intended because I could just create whatever the fuck I wanted and get done with it.
Like I said, I tried doing as intended.
I tried to do the temples as intended, but by this point in the game, I was so done with it. I was just like, fuck it.
I gave up at Goron and just tried breaking it because it just was not fun.
satisfying to complete. I believe the weakest temple in Tears of the Kingdom is the Wind Temple because it's closest in design to the Divine Beasts.
You are objectively wrong, because
He
the
is
Water
objectively
Temple
wrong.
is fucking abysmal. I cleared
It
that
is-
shit in like
yeah.
5-6 minutes. It
It's
felt
the
like.
easiest, and it doesn't make you feel good when you end up fighting the final boss there.
The Water Temple boss is so awful.
Lackluster. Oh, come on.
I don't know anyone who took longer to beat it than a minute.
You can't tell me that the giant ship wasn't fun to navigate.
Eh,
Outside of the stupid enemies they keep throwing at you, which are the high-level robots.
It just. No, the Water Temple is worse than even the worst of the Divine Beast. The Water Temple is worse than that.
Oh yeah.
I put the Water Temple as one of, I haven't played every Zelda game, but I'm willing to put it as one of the worst temples in any Zelda game.
Mm-hmm.
I found all of the other temples to be far more interesting because they were very different. Anyway, I think Breath of the Wild's second greatest flaw was its lack of interesting side quests. When you have a huge open world, one of the best ways to fill that world with meaningful content is through side quests. Little adventures and stories and characters that can fill the game's world with life. Give the player more opportunities to interact with that world and its characters.
Let's talk about the side quest in Tears of the Kingdom that wants you to fight a Lionel for a whole 50 rupees.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, there are more side quests in Tears of the Kingdom. And
not
I would not call them better,
quantity.
though.
Quantity in this case is not better than quality.
And it's not like the quality of Breath of the Wild's side quests were particularly good, either.
Mm-hmm.
They both kind of shit the bed, just in different ways.
Yeah, exactly.
Because in Breath of the Wild, yeah, the side quests are not good for most of them, but at least you're getting like 100 rupees, 200 rupees, or whatever the fuck. Tears of the Kingdom, you'll get like 5 Bokoblin horns.
Not economically stable.
Or 20 rupees. Or, a bunch of bullshit. Except for every once in a while, you'll get like, by the way, here's some Lionel horns. And you're just like, I gave you an apple. What the fuck?
Yeah, I don't think that happens in Tears of the Kingdom, though.
No, that happens in Tears of the Kingdom when you do the Lurelin village quest.
Oh.
You give the dude like 10 rupees and he gives you like 6 or 3 of the silver Lionel horns.
I will say on Lorelei you could do the shop, in which you give him a couple coins and he can end up giving you some good stuff.
Yeah. But again, that's, it's only 10 coins. And it's...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they both... I'm willing to give him Breath of the Wild side quest. Most of them are not memorable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just also saying that most of the ones in Tears of the Kingdom are also not memorable.
Mm-mm.
If it wasn't for the fact that I played Tears of the Kingdom more recently, I probably wouldn't remember them.
Right.
To explore it, to learn more about it, to be a part of it. All of the best open world fantasy
Also, he's doing the DLC quest line, and he only has like 16 hearts.
Well, he already said that he hasn't done anything in the game.
video games rely on the quality of their side quests. Think of Skyrim or The Witcher, how empty those games would feel if you removed their side quests. Now, Breath of the Wild was filled with side quests. It must have had hundreds of them, but so many of them were so boring. They would have you take a picture of a monster or collect 20 butter.
Hey, can you take
pretty sure
pictures
this
of monsters for my display?
Uh-huh.
Hey, can you take a picture of a monster so I can make a canvas for your glider?
Uh-huh.
Hey, can you deliver to me some bugs?
Mm-hmm. Hey, can you deliver these mushrooms for this quest? 10 to 8 people?
Yeah. No, they have the same quest. They have the same issues.
This guy's cherry picking a lot of stuff.
He is very much cherry picking because, dear viewer, if you have not played both of these games, I'm not trying to sit here and suck Breath of the Wild's dick as being a masterpiece of a game. Because he's correct. All these problems do exist with Breath of the Wild side quests. They're not good. It's just they also exist in Tears of the Kingdom side quest because they're also not good.
To be fair, when I was getting done with Breath of the Wild, I was getting tired of it. I wanted it to end. When I got close to getting done with Tears of the Kingdom, I got tired of it and I wanted it to end. They both kind of sucked the life out of me trying to do, because I tried to do everything. I tried to get all the Korok seeds I could. I ended up getting over 300 in Breath of the Wild, and there's no point after a while.
Not even
I
close.
tried to do all the shrines. Again, there's no real point. There's definitely no point in exploring all the chasm in Tears of the Kingdom.
No, that when I finished exploring the chasm, it's actually when I started losing my shit with this game because I was actually I was defending it quite a bit because I was convinced they wouldn't do the same bullshit of here's a shiny turd for all of your troubles, but it turns out that's exactly what they do.
Well, you saw how
Just
much I defended the storyline.
yeah, it's just they do this same. They just do it instead of just doing it for the Korok seeds. They do it for the shrines,
Hmm.
the light roots, and the
Hmm.
Korok seeds.
Hmm.
And you get three different shiny turds.
Hmm.
You get a coin turd for the chasm. You get some of the ugliest armor in the game for the shrines.
The onesie.
It's a onesie. It's terrible looking, and I hate it. And then you get another shiny turd for the Korok seeds.
Have your footy pajamas.
Terrible. Let's continue his nonsense.
Flies, or some equally inane minor task. They were just these little tedious chores instead of little exciting adventures. There was no story to them, no interesting interaction with the world or characters.
This
To
was a
be
plot
fair,
chain
it did have a
or
couple.
quest chain.
Right, what he's doing right now is for the DLC of Breath of the
Hmm.
Wild. This is important kind of plot stuff because it lets you know that turns out there was a fifth divine beast, whether it's been fucking broken or it was always designed to be funky. I'll leave that to you to find out, but he's not doing a side quest.
He didn't even do the shrine here.
Nope. Yeah, this he's not showing a side quest right now, so I'm trying to kind of figure out why. I mean, I
I
know
don't
why.
know.
It's because he's cherry picking.
I think, yeah, he is very much so.
Interesting side quests, like the Terrytown quest was awesome. Building a brand new village was really cool. There was a quest in Kakariko Village where you investigate the theft of an important heirloom that actually involved investigating different characters and learning about their lives. That was cool too. But these genuinely good side quests were far too few.
I would agree.
Yes.
It contributed to the empty feeling that some players had when playing the game. Tears of the Kingdom is absolutely filled with interesting and creative side quests. Every single town, every single village, and many of the stables have at least one extended side quest that involves you interacting with multiple characters, solving puzzles, doing something new, following a little adventure or story to a satisfying conclusion. And outside of the towns and stables, there are
Here's my sister with the world's worst posture.
even
Yeah,
more side quests out in the world for you to find. My favorite side quest in Tears of the Kingdom is Lorellan Village. Back in Breath of the Wild,
that's a pretty cool side quest. The
was.
Horde boss fights in Tears of the Kingdom I actually really like.
It's too bad they couldn't have an actual horde on the screen.
Until the right at the end.
Hmm. Even then, it was still minimized to like
30
less than
enemies.
20 enemies. Big horde.
Lorellan Village was this sort of random tiny village tucked away in the far corner of the map. It was so small and so out of the way, it was possible to just completely miss it. But
God, he has gone here way fucking later than I did. He has two of the sages already.
Hmm.
I
I came here kind of later too, though.
I didn't have a single sage when I did this.
Oh no.
When I first came here. I came back after I got Riju. No, wait. No, I didn't. I did it right before I got Riju.
So
I
I
had to.
started this quest pretty early. Wasn't able to do it because the enemies just took too much.
Yeah,
Like
I kept.
I could do it eventually, but it was too much of a grind. So I
Yeah,
just didn't do enough damage quick enough, and didn't have the support of the other sages, which, let's be honest, they're not very supportive.
no, they're kind of shit,
Hmm.
except for Yunobo. He's kind
Riju's
of
nice, or not Riju. Uh, Cullen's nice, just because he can actually shoot and do decent damage.
he seems to always crit. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he's definitely in terms of the actual combat effectiveness of the I keep wanting to call them champions, but they're not. They're not those characters.
Sages.
Sages. Tullen's easily the best of them in terms of actual fighting. In terms of power that is useful, Riju or Yonobo for combat. Tullen again has probably the best power when it comes to exploration.
Yes.
But in Tears of the Kingdom, it's the site of the game's best side quest.
Well, what about Sidon? What about Sidon?
He's shit. The end.
Yeah, he is. Power's dumb.
His power's a really shitty version of Daruk's protection, and he never attacks. The end.
No, he just stands there and watches. He's too awestruck by his bro.
He wants to see. He wants to look at his husband fight. I don't blame him.
Mm-hmm. That's true. His
In
bromance.
this game, Fallen Village has
greatest
been
bromance.
destroyed by monster pirates, burned to the ground, all of its villagers scattered across Hyrule Kingdom. As you explore, you will meet
Ow,
these
stop
scattered
beating me!
villagers, and
He's
they'll talk
stuck.
about the tragic fate
You
of their
dishonor!
homes. When you finally journey to the far corner of the map, you'll find a monster-infested wasteland in Laurel.
I wouldn't call it a wasteland. The Hyrule Field is more of a wasteland.
Big time.
One village's place, but you can rescue and rebuild this village piece by piece. First, you have to defeat all of the monsters and then gather a ton of building materials, which for me meant building a lumber truck and driving 20 piles of wood across country, which
I just glued them all together and carried them.
That's what I did. I
Cool.
found all the ones I could in the town, and then there's a little forest on top of like the hillside that's not too far from the city.
Yeah, I just ended up gluing them all together and just carrying them down. Well, throwing them down and then carrying them the rest of the way.
Same, because the time it takes to make that vehicle, unless you have one pre-programmed, not worth it.
Yeah.
which was really fun. I could play Legend of Zelda
This whole questline is actually really neat, though.
Absolutely.
Ice Road Trucker literally forever. And then you build and repair each home and building in the village. You can even trace the monster pirates back
That's
to
as
their
high as you can
original
lift it.
hideout on this distant island. The whole thing is really well done.
I don't think that's supposed to be the same pirates.
It's not. He's just linking it together.
He's just linking because they're both pirates. Yeah. I do like this little area, though.
Designed. Tears of the Kingdom has side quests this elaborate and this interesting in every corner of the map.
No, they don't.
Because of
Fuck no, they don't.
Like I said, this isn't even part of the same quest.
No, this is... Yeah, he's confused himself.
He definitely confused himself.
Or he's purposely trying to mislead his audience.
I think he is. This is a separate... Guys, this is a separate quest line. This has nothing to do with the Laurelin.
of these high
Maybe it's
quality
Maybelline.
side quests, the game feels so full of life and characters. Once again, it's a dramatic improvement over the original. I think Breath of the Wild's third greatest flaw was its simplistic and easy shrines. Previous Zelda games had huge dungeons, with room after room of interconnected puzzles. Breath of the Wild replaced these with shrines, teeny tiny miniature dungeons where you would usually only complete one lone puzzle. I did enjoy these shrines. I thought they were largely well designed, and they fit in with the open world gameplay of Breath of the Wild. But I also found them to be very, very simple and very, very easy.
I would agree that the shrines in Breath of the Wild are also really, really easy.
Mhm.
However, so are the ones in Tears of the Kingdom. They just take
Exactly.
longer.
Yep.
And Tears of the Kingdom also has a fuckload of the walk in and you get a freebie.
More than half.
I don't think it's half. I think it's a third.
close.
I think it's 50 something.
It's still a lot, though.
It is still an obscene amount. There's no reason it should have been that many.
At least they had the one that turned into a puzzle as you went to go up to it.
They only had one of those though, and it wasn't really that hard of a puzzle. But that was
neat.
probably the highlight though. Yeah.
Like, hey, okay, I guess I just walk. Oh my goodness, it
Like-
just got really high.
It wouldn't be as bad as if because there's the one giant gravity well where you have to the one gravity sphere in the sky where you have
Oh,
to
yeah.
have all the mirror. You have to do the light mirror puzzle. Like, I like that one.
Yeah.
I wish all the ones that, you know, you just walk in and get it were like that, but there's a couple of them that are just kind of on the ground.
Going to the giant castle in the sky was really cool too, with all the pipes running through it, or the chimneys, whatever you want to call them. You end up finding out it's the Zone I Forge.
Yeah, it's
That was cool.
yeah. There's some of them are cool. It's just a shame that, you know, a lot of them are just, you know, oh, it's in the middle of a field, but you found it. Congratulations. Here's your shrine. Here's your blessing. Your Raru's blessing. Raru thinks Link's a fucking retard.
Oh, he definitely does.
And yes, Breath of the Wild also had a few that were like that, dear viewer. But they were not 50 of them that were like that.
Also, there was too many shrines that were like, hey, you know all this cool equipment that you found?
Oh my!
Yeah, you're not gonna have it.
Found like
So you better have a lot of hearts. This is gonna be annoying.
I found I think I got almost at least the majority of those all in a row by complete fucking accident, and it made me want to kill myself.
Oh, it sucks.
They're so boring.
No defense. You have to rely on the stuff they give you.
Well, it's because people like that quest that shrine in Breath of the Wild, so they're like, we'll just do that and repeat. But the reason it sticks out in Breath of the Wild is because there was nothing else like it.
Also, a couple of them were stealth missions. The stealth in that game is not good.
No.
Especially because they don't let you have the stealth stuff.
Yeah.
Or there's the one they let you have the stealth stuff, but...
Anyway.
I don't think I was ever stumped by a shrine in Breath of the Wild. I don't think I ever truly felt challenged by them. I never had to think really hard or experiment much to find a solution.
Because he didn't do them
the
all.
shrines in Tears of the
Yeah.
Kingdom are pretty simple, but I struggled far more often with these.
Hopefully he shows some that are actually struggleable.
Because so far he hasn't.
This is called foreshadowing.
Uh-huh.
I actually got legitimately stumped a few times, and many of the shrines required an extended period of trial and error and experimentation before I found a solution. The puzzles here are more interesting, more creative, and more challenging
Real
than in
creative.
Breath of the Wild.
Very creative. You use the glue gun to glue rockets to a platform and then fly up. It's very challenging.
Very, very hard, very challenging.
No, and what he's doing right now, what he's showing right now, this lava river you have to drive through. If I could just build a blimp or a rocket ship or a hover cart or wherever the fuck else, because there's a couple of shrines like this one he's showing right here.
Mhm.
These shrines would take like 2 minutes, but you have to use these slow as fuck vehicles, and you have to go through things that make it even slower, such as lava.
Obstacles, yeah.
They're not hard. It's just boring.
Big time.
It's a time killer. It's
It's
padding.
tedious. It's, I gotta finish this shrine so I can get the thing. So I don't know what I'll get after this, and it's not worth it.
It's not great.
There is one reason for this, and that reason is the new Ultra Hand ability. With
Oh boy, he's talking about the new cool Ultra Hand ability, the glue gun.
Mm-hmm.
Also known as my probably one of my more hated things about this game.
Ultra Hand, you can attach any object in the game to any other object.
Not
Combined
true.
with the game's huge variety of mechanical Zonai devices, and you can build almost anything. You can build cars, and you can build boats and helicopters.
You want
I'd like to see what helicopter he's actually made.
Yeah. You want to know my favorite part about all these though? The carts, the boats, which there's no reason to fucking build a boat. And
There's a couple, but it's
just build what he's built right here. Add a rocket so you can get into the air. It's faster.
you just get the Ultra Hand schematic for the electric boat, and it's fine. You just zap everything in your way.
But you get the you all these vehicles, the cars and the blimps and planes, they make horses worthless.
Yep.
They make traveling worthless because you can just skip everything, and it's so irritating. But it's
Also,
so convenient.
The world's so chasmed now. There's almost no point to have horses anymore.
Yeah, it's like
So fractured.
after you get good at gliding and shit, and you get enough stamina so you can climb the higher pieces and you can actually glide for a bit in Breath of the Wild, horses aren't really all that useful towards the end of the game. But in this one, horses are worthless right from the beginning.
Big time.
And airplanes and rocket ships and spitting death Roombas. The possibilities for puzzle design with this new ability
Oh, here's like one of the hardest puzzles,
This
probably.
one took me a little bit.
Yeah, I accidentally screwed myself up, and I couldn't shoot the one that
are truly end.
the other one behind him, and I was like, fuck. So I had to sit there and I had to MacGyver my way out of it to shoot it.
The prison escape one was pretty cool too, but it was pretty obvious.
Yeah.
In the shrines, I never felt like I was just repeating some old puzzle or challenge. In every single shrine, even after over 100 hours of playtime, I still felt like I was always doing something new. I was always getting challenged by some totally new.
I don't get this, what he's talking about, though. Like how he's always doing something new. Pretty much every puzzle in the game can be summed up to: do you build a thing to go up? Do you build a thing to turn it, or do you build a thing to fight?
Mm-hmm. That's all building.
Or do you build a thing to go for, like, to drive? They're not really all that different. You could say, maybe you could argue that, oh well, that's like every puzzle in the other Zelda games, and that's a fine argument, one we all could have later at some point, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't hold that it fix. These are cool.
Mm-hmm.
New puzzle that I hadn't seen before. It's a remarkable achievement. Ultra Hand is just a much better and more creative ability than anything that Breath of the Wild had. It's a much better tool that allowed for much better and more creative puzzles.
It is a better tool because you can break the game super fucking easy.
Mm-hmm.
Did it leave for more creative puzzles? You could build some... Yeah, you can build crazy shit with it. But most of the puzzles can be beaten with minimal effort because of it as well. So, a mixed bag.
I wonder if the Nintendo team just liked to look at half-naked Link, which is why they had so many of these.
I mean, do you not?
I mean, look at that long, luxurious hair.
Exactly. I'm still upset that...
Longer than Zelda's.
it is, isn't it? In Breath of... This is a problem with Breath of the Wild as well. I think it's Impa talks about how Link is covered in scars.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just not.
No.
And I know there's a mod for it, but, like, that should have been an option somewhere in the menu.
There is no comparison between the quality of the shrines in these two games. The shrines in Tears of the Kingdom are so consistently more interesting. I think Breath of the Wild's fourth greatest flaw was its
the shrines in both games have problems. Some of them do some things better than each other. It's mixed. It's just...
Breath of the Wild, look how cool it is to have the dragons so much lower on the ground. So you could actually interact with them.
Yeah. But let's see what he's about to say. His fourth great sin, I think. I'm going to rewind it slightly.
Better tool that allowed for much better and more creative puzzles. There is no comparison between the quality of the shrines in these two games. The shrines in Tears of the Kingdom are so consistently more interesting. I think Breath of the Wild's fourth greatest flaw was its lack of variety in its environments. So Breath of the Wild was a game that's all about exploration.
The fourth great mistake, the lack of variety in the environment. All right, let's see where he goes with this. Aura?
And one of my personal favorite things to discover in a game while exploring is a new creative and weird or alien environment. Something unusual within the world design itself, something unexpected, something I've never seen before.
Which was before this game, none of this.
None of this. Who would have thought that a Zelda game in the world of Zelda, set in a post-apocalyptic Hyrule, would not have crazy hyper fantasy environments. If you ignore the divine beasts, which are hyper tech, future tech, ancient tech, magitech, whatever you want to call it. If we ignore that, then yeah, he's right. There is not really a hyper fantastical environment. Although Zora's domain is beautiful.
Let's talk about how much more complex the Lost Woods were in Breath of the Wild than they were in Tears of the Kingdom.
Where you just can't enter them unless you go from the chasm. Yeah.
And then you're limited to certain areas.
I like the Lost Woods. Although the chasm area of the Lost Woods is pretty cool.
Eh.
It's not really any different from the rest of the chasm, though. Although there's a bunch of
There's,
Korok shit down there, which makes you
yeah.
wonder, can the Koroks just go to the chasm whenever they want? Which leads to a whole other host of questions that will never get answered. Anyway,
When split it up, everybody can go down there.
continuing.
For example, Elden Ring was another open world.
Of course, Elden
Get ready
Ring.
for more of
Every
this.
game is the Souls game.
Mhm.
Breath of the Wild is the Dark Souls of the Zelda franchise. Fallout 4 is the Dark Souls of the Fallout franchise. Starfield is the Dark Souls of the Elder Scrolls franchise. Every game is the fucking Dark Souls of the Dark Soulsing.
Mhm.
Fucking hate when people bring up Dark Souls because of that.
This guy brings it up too often.
Let's see what cool, grand, mystical points he's about to make about Elden Ring.
Mhm.
Also known as, apparently, the greatest video game ever made in the history of ever, if you ask people who played it that month.
Mhm.
World fantasy game that did exploration really well. And part of what made its exploration so good was the variety in its environments. You start off Elden Ring in a basically standard medieval fantasy sort of area, but from there you go to all these crazy and creative places, like the hostile, rot-infested and totally bizarre Caelid region. Or another of my favorites was Liurnia of the Lakes, an entire region sinking into a swamp. The magical Raya Lucaria Academy towering over the landscape. Elden Ring made exploration exciting because there were always new environments left to discover, each of them totally different from every other environment in the game. As much as I loved Breath of the
Alright, so his whole point is there are multiple environments in Breath of the Wild. Or multiple environments in Elden Ring. He only showed 3, so if you haven't played Elden Ring, you only know of 3.
Mhm.
I know where this goes, but man, that is certainly a decision.
Wild's world
Very
design,
picky.
because it really was a world I wanted to spend a lot of time in. I found it to be tranquil and beautiful and melancholy, and I really genuinely liked it. But I always wished its environments had more variety. The vast majority of Breath of the Wild's world is made up of rolling green hills, or little forests, or mountains. Those make up like 2/3 of the entire game's world. Sure, there was a jungle and a desert and some snowy areas.
So, right there, he has mentioned 4 areas in Breath of the Wild, but he only mentioned 3 areas in Elden Ring. Now, I know there is more in Elden Ring. I don't know how much more, off the top of my head.
You
But-
will when we finally play it.
Yeah, but if you had not played Elden Ring, you would just be confused by that point, because you're like, yes, there are 3 areas in Elden Ring, whereas Breath of the Wild has 4 areas, which makes for less exploration. Am I crazy, or does that just not make sense?
Like I said, he's just cherry picking a lot of things.
And those definitely helped the environmental variety, but it wasn't enough. Too much of the world felt too similar. Tears of the Kingdom has added 3 new types of environments, and these 3 new areas go a really long way to making the world feel much more varied this time around.
They don't.
Tears of the Kingdom added caves.
Should caves count as their own environment?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess they do have their own music. I think they do, at least.
And horriblins, which aren't found nearly anywhere else.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
Sky Islands, and most importantly, the depths.
Alright. So 3 new areas. So that is 7 areas to Elden Ring's 3 that he presented. I hate it.
Caves have always been a big part of Zelda's world design, so it was strange that there weren't any to find in Breath of the Wild. In Tears of the Kingdom, every single mountain
I think there is one cave in Breath of the Wild.
I like his weird pickaxe bat.
Yeah, not a weapon I would make, but
and high hill is completely riddled with tunnels and
Like you heard me.
caverns. And many of them are really big, long, and twisting underground labyrinths. Every time I entered a new cave, I had no idea how long it would be until I came back out again. The caves have their own atmosphere, their own monsters, and their own challenges.
Monster.
They add a
Yeah, monster. And I do like the caves in Tears of the Kingdom, I'm not gonna lie.
huge amount of new variety to the world. Next are these Sky Islands. Despite how heavily the Sky Islands were shown off in promotional materials prior to the game's release, I was surprised by what a small part of the game's world they actually comprise. The Sky Islands are almost all very small, and their layouts are pretty repetitive. I definitely felt like after the first few I was just re-exploring the same couple basic islands over and over again, but with that criticism aside, they are still a brand new environment, with their own atmosphere, their own unique challenges not found anywhere
Man, his footage is really jumpy.
else in the game, and they certainly add a lot of variety
there.
to the world. Tears of the Kingdom's really stand out new
So, the Sky Islands really don't add a lot, which is unfortunate.
Basically, what
'Cause
he
the-
said breaks
yeah.
down to they are different for different sake, but otherwise they're just kind of boring.
Yeah. They definitely could have gone further with them. Like the
So
Thunder
there's a
one.
few there's a few sky islands, like the Thunder one, like the giant castle in the sky that stood apart.
Yeah,
There are the three archipelagos that house the King Gliaks, which were pretty fun to fight them, although they're not much different than the regular ones, except they're more of a bullet sponge.
I was so excited when I found the King Gliok in the chasm or the depths, because I was like, oh man, this is gonna be like the only King Gliok, and then
Nope.
nah, there's actually just 4. There's like 5 or 6 of them or something. And it's just like
4.
4. And it's just like, man, they really should have had like that be like the Dark Gliok or something unique, because it's trapped in the depths, whereas the other ones are not.
The Gloom Gliak.
Yeah, missed opportunity.
new environment is the depths. I freaking adore
Gloomok.
these depths. They
I also adored the depths.
feel utterly different than anything in any
Especially
other
going
Zelda
early.
game. The
Oh, yeah.
depths
This is like the first thing I did. I jumped down and I died, and then we kind of kept exploring because I had a fairy with me, so I got back up. So I did a lot of this with 4 hearts.
Could you imagine how much scarier this area, like the chasm, would be if they had malice instead of gloom? Like an actual sea of malice
It should,
instead of just red on the ground?
yeah. The differences between Gloom and Malice is like you should have just gone with kept Malice because, to be frank, it looked better.
It didn't make any sense to change.
No. Also, there could have been the Gloom. Okay, you wanted the Gloom to be different for the sake of being different. Okay, fine, but you could have gone so much. The depths are really cool until after you're in it for a bit, and then you realize that it has a lot of problems, most of which come down to it is wasted, and the amount of potential brimming there is irritating.
Except for a few areas, like the Yiga fortresses, it's just boring.
It's
Running
it
through
is
an almost empty map.
Yeah, it is hilariously empty, and outside of some Gloom shit on some enemies, there's only 1 unique enemy down there and 3 unique bosses, which are all the same variation of 1 boss. And it is like, man, the depths could have been so much more. But before we get further and go down that rabbit hole, let's see what he has to say about the depths.
are alien. They are strange. They are hostile. They are absolutely pitch black, and you can only light them up piece by little piece. Exploration is slow and methodical down here. The depths are full of gloom, this malice-like tainted substance that reduces your maximum number of hearts.
God, the depths do look so good, though.
Many of the enemies down here are also infested with gloom, and when you get hit, you don't just lose health, you lose the ability to regain that health, making exploration of the depths especially dangerous. The fauna of the depths is so strange and so unlike anything else in the game that it really feels like you're exploring another world, fully.
Why didn't Ganondorf just infect his upper minions with it too? I know it wouldn't have been as scary, but at nighttime it would have worked the same.
Yeah, because they just didn't because lazy.
Yeah.
So
Lazy.
they wanted to use an excuse of, oh, well, the enemies down here are different. See, they can be infected with gloom. And it's like, congratulations, they're still the same fucking thing. It's not like they have an extra attack or anything.
Uh,
Like, imagine if the Bokoblins could just, like, puke, like, if they got close, they could just, like, start puking malice or gloom on the ground and create a puddle wherever they're at.
that'd be
Like,
cool.
that'd be something. That'd be different.
You've already seen with Phantom Ganon that he has an aura of gloom around him at all times, unless
Or,
you hit him.
yeah, and there's also those big gloom, like, lakes that are down there. And they're not actually lakes, but they're just large areas where there's gloom on the ground. Like, if the Phantom Ganon hands started popping up
Mm-hmm.
just in those, that's something. Like, the whole area is just wasted.
Make it harder to traverse.
Yeah. There should have been gloom versions of, like, the other bosses, too. Like, the sandworm.
Mhm.
Moldogas.
Yep.
Like, there should have been, like, a weird malice fish. Like they could have used the skeleton for it, but it would swim through the gloom.
Mm-hmm. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. Or everything down here, instead of being made of flesh and blood covered in gloom shit, everything should have been like a zombie variation. Or go further with the skeletal variations, something. But they didn't.
Nope, unfortunately.
Disconnected from the one above, where strange new forms of life flourish, where you'll find incredibly ancient abandoned mining sites of the mysterious Zonai civilization. And the depths are absolutely massive. These huge caverns feel like they're nearly as big as the surface.
They are. Did you not explore all
I know,
of them?
right? When I saw this part, I'm like, they literally are. They're supposed to be like a mirror image.
It is. Yeah, it is quite literally a mirror image. Did you make this video before you even got very far?
I don't think he played the game.
Yeah. Your theory is he didn't play the game. My theory is he made this video when he was maybe like 5 hours into it.
Look how many hearts he has.
I mean, his heart, the amount of hearts he has is shifted throughout the video, but
I think he just cut other people playing this game into his video.
I'm not going to make that accusation, but I would not be surprised.
It would make some sense.
The depths are truly an entire new world lying underneath the one we're familiar
See, that's what I thought when I came down here too, but I was proven
Horribly
wrong.
with. The depths are
Also, why the fuck do all the mine shafts have the names of modern day villages like the Kakariko mine?
Why does all the metal in the chasm not warped and deteriorated like the other metal?
Yeah, considering it's been stuck with the gloom way the fuck longer.
I bet should be rusted.
No, that'd make it cool. Then they might have to make a power where you have to, like, you get a power that cleans the fucking rust and gloom away from shit and restores it. Maybe some kind of time power that only works sometimes.
It doesn't explain why there are random ghosts down there that give you perfect weapons too. Like, why didn't these weapons get gloomed?
Yeah, that's when I first came across those. I thought there was going to be like a side quest where these were ancient heroes or whatever throughout the ages, and their ghost is just holding weapons they would use, and their soul would protect it. Obviously, that nothing like that even happens, and I was completely wrong. But that was my first thought.
You know what would have been cooler? You know, what's the opposite of the chasm in this game that could have had like perfectly untouched weapons that, you know, would have been perfect place for like spirits to be, since it's closer to like the heavens and farther away from the gloom, you know, something like a floating island that could have housed these stronger weapons.
It's an
And you could've
island
just
covered in
had-
angelic imagery.
You could have just had something like that, you could have had the chasm just be pure nightmare fuel with like no real reprieve.
Just a sea of
Unless you
undead
leave.
monsters.
Like, if you want to rest, you gotta go.
See, that'd be
Like-
cool.
Yeah.
That would be cool, and it's again, it's just the depths are at a fucking fantastic concept. I love Underdark stuff. Like an Elden Ring has an Underdark because he talked about it earlier, but like, and that's done kind of neat there. But this one's also done really neat. It's just I haven't beaten all of Elden Ring, so I don't know how it continues to go. But and Tears of the Kingdom, its Underdark is really cool at first, and then it shits the bed once you figure out all of its tricks.
I just feel like, just like how I felt with Breath of the Wild, this just isn't a finished game. It feels like they tried to do too much and ended up doing too little.
Saber's theory is that they spent all of their time in mechanic like production
Hmm.
with the stupid glue gun to get that mechanic to work.
Yeah.
And by the time they got it to work, it had already been years and years and years of development.
Hmm.
And so they were just kind of sitting there like, fuck, we've already put so much time and effort, we have to use the stupid glue gun.
Hmm.
And because of that, the rest of the game suffered.
I think that's a valid excuse,
It's a valid, as a very
a valid reasoning.
unfortunately believable theory.
Mhm. I can see it.
Alright, let's continue his nonsense.
Mhm.
Are awesome. They are
Almost done.
dangerous and strange. They remind me a lot of the Caelid region in Elden Ring. Both of them are alien environments with completely unique flora and fauna. They're both extremely dangerous with ooze.
I'll ask
Why
you
didn't you
since you
say the
beat it.
Underdark? They actually have an Underdark.
Maybe he didn't get that far in Elden Ring.
I mean, that's possible.
Is there no other area like Caelid in Elden Ring since you've beaten it?
No, there's plenty of places. They literally have an Underdark in Elden Ring. They literally have a place that's similar to Caelid in the Underdark,
Oh,
and it's called the Rot Lake, and it is literally like it's what the chasm should have been.
oh,
Just nightmare fuel.
neat. I have something to look forward to then.
If you go down to, it's gonna be pretty annoying because you go like normally you can use Torrent, which is your horse in Elden Ring, to walk across the Rot Lake, and you don't get affected. But down there you can't do that, so you have to like jump from platform to platform, just like in the chasm. In this case, it's little areas you want to run through of not not gloom or not rot, just to make sure you get from point A to point B without taking the damage or getting the status affliction. Rot's a little bit worse than gloom. It's just a little bit,
Just a wee bit.
but yeah, I don't know why he picked Khaled.
Yeah,
There's not even like a darkness mechanic or anything here. I don't think there was an. Well, it was darker and spookier underground.
it's.
There's no
I,
real
I think his
darkness.
whole thing is just because it looks so fucking bizarre compared to the early areas of Elden Ring.
Yeah.
But you say there's an area like this that's also underground. That probably would have been
Yeah.
the better
Yep.
area to pick.
Hmm.
He's also using the same footage of Caleb that he used earlier, so
Hmm. Oh, he's got his sword and board.
the only true way to play these games.
Using toxic substances that impart debilitating status effects on your characters. Most importantly, the depths completely transform the environmental variation of the game. You're not just exploring samey green rolling hills for the entire adventure anymore. Now you're exploring caverns and sky islands in the truly alien depths. It makes for a much more varied game. I think Breath of the Wild's fifth greatest flaw was a lack of variety in enemies. For most
Yes.
Yes.
That's not even a question. The fucking enemy variety sucked ass in Breath of the Wild.
But guess what? Tears of the Kingdom didn't bring in that Breath of the Wild did. The keys mob.
Yeah.
You know the swarm of keys that can attack you and not just sit there as
Easy
fodder,
farm.
as easy farming. Oh, I say easy farming, but because of the limitations, you can only get up to 20 items per swarm. So even if you shoot them multiple times, you're only ever going to get up to 20 items before they're gone. You can kill every single one, and you won't get more than 20 items,
Yeah.
including wings and eyes.
Let's maybe he's gonna reveal some unknown source of information to us about this very obvious flaw in Breath of the Wild.
Maybe we'll get to see more Elden Ring.
Maybe.
of Breath of the Wild, it felt like I was only battling against 3 different enemy types: Bokoblins, Moblins, and Lizalfos. Now, that's not entirely fair, because there were also Yiga clan soldiers, and a lot of mini-bosses like Hinox and Stone Taluses and Lynels, and there were the Guardians too.
And
But once
Moldoga.
again, I'm going to make
Yeah. The I know Breath of the Wild obviously it depends on how quickly you do the Ego Fortress crap, but for me I was dealing with the Ego all game because I went to the Gerudo area first.
What I want to know is, the chasm's got a single new enemy. It only has one interesting new enemy.
The Frox.
They're called the Crocs. Why didn't they just make them into Dodongo? They're exactly the same as Dodongo,
But
except for some reason they hop.
because they're afraid to use new monsters or something. I don't fucking know.
It's not a new monster. It's an old monster.
I,
They made a new monster.
I don't know. They should have kept Dodongos and they should have been gold.
You fight them the same way, basically.
Yeah, because that would have been cool to be able to be like, oh yeah, there's Dodongos in the chasm, man. It's like no,
Could you
there's
imagine them rolling at you instead of trying to hop? How scary that would have been, trying to get out of the way.
probably if I had to guess, that's probably because they couldn't do the rolling well. My major guess. I still have the passive with the. I still have the question of what the fuck do the giant skeletons in the chasms belong to, but they're like dragon shaped, but they're not the dragons, so.
I know it's supposed to be a mirror image of the top, but in order for it to be a mirror image, that means something else had to die there.
Yeah. That's questions for another day.
Make a comparison to Elden.
Also.
Since it's a mirror image, where's Shadow Link? He should be down there.
Well, you see, they put the Shadow Link in the Warriors game, where he was a really neat boss fight, where the guy was made a bunch of links out of malice to fight Link.
Right?
But Age of Calamity has a similar problem of Tears of the Kingdom, where it's not actually related to Breath of the Wild, although it is more so than Tears of the Kingdom is.
Right.
Fucking Nintendo.
One's a what if, and the other is a this is not connected at all.
Yeah.
Elden Ring. Elden Ring has an
Speak of Elden Ring.
incredible variety.
Oh
of
boy,
enemies.
Elden Ring.
Elden Ring has well over 100.
I want to play Elden Ring
to fight, which is amazing. That's a ton of variety. Of course, Elden Ring is primarily an action game. The only way you interact with the world in Elden Ring is through combat. So it really needs a lot of different enemy types in a way that Breath of the Wild doesn't. Breath of the Wild is more of a puzzle and exploration game than it is an action game. It's more important that it has a lot of variety in ways to interact with that environment and in puzzles because those are its focus. It's a different kind of game with different priorities.
You got it.
But still, Breath of the Wild would have benefited from some more variety in its enemy design. Now, admittedly, Tears of the Kingdom still doesn't have a huge amount of variety in enemies. It doesn't come anywhere close to Elden Ring, but Tears of the Kingdom did basically double the number of unique enemy types, which is still a pretty big leap in enemy variety. In Tears of the Kingdom, you can...
And I think it is doubled because of likes and shit.
I don't think so, because weren't there likes at all in the other one? No, I guess they weren't.
There weren't. Because they added the Horriblins, likes, and Frox. Which, in terms of basic enemies, that is 3, and they only had... I mean, they had 4 in... Oh, and the Bossblins.
Oh yeah, Bossblins.
So yeah, they did double it, because before there was Lizalfos. Oh, and they had Gibdos.
That's true. And Flying Gibdos. Never mind.
Yeah. They did do a good, decent enough. Like, the thing that annoys me about Gibdos, real quick, is the fact that since I went there first, I was convinced that every area was going to have its own unique enemy.
Oh, you fool.
Oh, I am a fool. I'm so annoyed by that. I had such high hopes, because, like, oh my god. There's Gibdos here, and they have their own mechanic on how to kill them. Man, I can't wait to see what's in the other areas. So I had a big goofy smile on my face because I was so excited. I was looking for what was going to come next.
The Zora area almost exclusively had Lizalfos.
Yeah. No special types of Lizalfos, though. Like it talks about in the giant stone tablets in Breath of the Wild, where it was there used to be a super Lizalfos that fought the King of the Zora, who was the size of the King of the Zora.
Which would be really cool to see.
That would be really cool to see. Maybe something resurrected by the Gloom. So it'd
The
be like a
greatest evil
Gloomless
that
Alpha
Hyrule has
skeleton.
ever seen.
But no, we don't get that. We don't get cool things.
You can find the
Instead,
new horror
speaking of likes, we get alone. Only time you ever see it, Sludge like.
Oh yeah, I fucking forgot about that mini boss.
Only time you ever see him again.
It's fucking stupid. And I threw a fire hydrant at it and it died.
Yep.
Horriblins and likes in caves. You can find frocks down in the depths. You can find the phenomenally well-designed flux construct.
And I won't call them
Oh.
phenomenally well designed. Although how they're neat.
Once you
for
learn how
what
to
they
beat
are.
them, though, they're so easy. Even
Yeah,
the
you just-
third period.
Yeah, all you gotta do is tear them apart with the glue gun.
Mm-hmm.
Ultra hand is you just fucking grab them, rip them apart, and then they die.
Mhm.
Mini boss on the Sky Islands.
Fall apart.
You can find the new Aracuda flying monsters all over.
Oh, Aracuda.
I always forget about the Aracuda. They're so bad. They
They're
only
big and
have
they hit hard, but they're one-shotted.
they're one shot
matter
by
what you have.
absolutely everything. I've never even been hit by one. I don't know how many
Young
hearts
Link-
they do.
Young Link could just hit him with a Deku Nut,
Yeah.
and they would die.
Well, in the game's files, I think they only literally have 1 HP.
I think so.
A friend was telling me that like he flew into one with the blimp and it killed it.
It's cool to see him carry enemies then. Or
Yeah.
bombs.
That was the when I saw the Aracudas, that was another thing. I was like, oh man, I can't wait to say variations of the Aracuda. I bet the other Sky Islands are gonna have crazy versions, and I bet there's gonna be a boss that's like a super one of these.
I wish.
I wish
But no.
indeed.
I don't even think they're on the Sky Islands. They just happen to like hover near them.
By the mazes, they float in between the surface and the maze. In the
I never
sky.
ran across them when I did the mazes.
Like they're underneath the maze,
Yeah.
but they're like higher than the surface. They're in
Mhm.
like the little in between area, I think.
Over the place. You can find Zonai battle constructs everywhere. You can find
Oh yeah, and the Zonai battle constructs.
Metalis battle maps.
Yeah, they did add a good amount of enemies to Tears of the Kingdom. It's actually kudos to you. I wish it went further.
the new battle taluses all over the place too, which are a really cool twist on the old stone taluses. You can find Gibdos in the desert, and the extremely imposing and dangerous three-headed dragon Gleeoks serve as the
This is the same Gleeok footage from earlier.
new ultimate overall
It's a little bit different.
challenge. And all of these enemies feel totally unique and different. They all require different
right.
tactics.
Maybe it's not.
They
Nope,
all
it is.
have multiple
You're right.
variations that you'll have to approach slightly differently. One
You don't have to approach any Gleeok differently. You put a Keese eyeball on it and it just dies.
He even said he didn't even beat them.
Once
Yeah.
again,
So how would
Tears
he
of the
know
Kingdom
anyway?
has taken a flaw in Breath of the Wild, and if not totally removed it, at least made it
throw a
way,
splash fruit
way
at 'em, they'll
better.
drop.
But there's one more big flaw from Breath of the Wild that I need to discuss, which is weapon degradation. Before the release of Tears of the
All right, he's gonna. I feel it. I feel it, Aura. The weapon degradation. This is the argument he's gonna have. It's gonna convince me and you right now that Tears of the Kingdom is better than Breath of the Wild in every possible way. I really
my.
enjoy the fact that he didn't bring up characterization. Because he knows he's wrong, because there are no characters in Tears of the Kingdom. There's Raru.
Yep.
Everyone else has been cleansed with bleach.
Kingdom, I posted a whole video just about the weapon durability system, so I don't want to repeat myself here. All I will say is that my biggest problem with the weapon durability system was the way it devalued exploration. Exploration wasn't as exciting when the only reward for exploration was finding another weapon that will
He's
very
lucky they all
soon
stood
break.
in the
I
same
think
area.
that
Right? Mine spread right the fuck out.
Same with mine.
problem has been resolved in Tears of the Kingdom. Weapons are no longer your primary rewards for exploring.
I thought he was going to intentionally miss.
That would have been pretty funny. Weapons are no longer your primary reward for exploring. Now you get useless crap, like magic rods, which are a weapon.
I do no damage.
So, I'm curious on his where he's going with this, because you still mostly just get weapons and garbage for exploring.
Best item or best rewards I've gotten from any dungeon is 10 arrows. When I don't get a diamond, which is very rare.
Yeah.
resolved in Tears of the Kingdom. Weapons are no longer your primary rewards for exploring. Instead, you are more often going to be rewarded with upgrade collectibles, or outfits or gems and other materials rather than weapons. Generally, weapons feel very different to me in Tears of the Kingdom than they did in Breath of the Wild. In the previous game, I was...
And they have less health and they do less damage, that's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
collecting weapons, finding them in chests, taking them off defeated enemies. But in
Which are all things you do in Breath of the Wild.
Mm-hmm.
Tears of the Kingdom, because all weapons everywhere have been degraded,
The weapons, you literally showed in this video that there's the ghosts that carry untainted weapons in the depths.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the Zonai weapons from the robots aren't tainted.
Untainted weapons that do a little bit more damage, but are otherwise almost just as durable.
Yeah.
and made basically worthless by the spreading gloom, I instead had to forge all of my own weapons using the new Fuse ability. In this new game, you make all of your own weapons, almost always by fusing a weapon base with a monster part. You receive a weapon monster part every single time you defeat an enemy, and the monster part will be exactly as strong as the monster you defeated. You will always have as many weapons as monsters you have killed.
That's not true. I went to a camp of almost entirely silver crap and I ran out of weapons because they have so much fucking health and everything does no damage.
Mm-hmm.
It's this, so I'm gonna wait to see if he explains this. I doubt it.
Probably not. Anytime I wanted more or better weapons, all I had to do was go fight some strong monsters. In Tears of the Kingdom, even with my weapons breaking,
little damage
I
that does.
always had
you know, the flamethrower that's not even lighting the thing on fire. It's so cool.
He's just glitching out on the area.
I think he is just glitching out right now because he's not... I'm pretty sure you can light them on fire.
No, I mean, he's glitching out because he should have just swatted Link off.
Yeah, he is. I mean, I know that too, but...
exactly the weapons I wanted.
Look at that, he's turning around.
Whatever
he's
weapon
confused.
I wanted whenever I felt like it. To me, the weapon durability system feels totally irrelevant in Tears of the Kingdom.
So, it feels totally irrelevant because you can make crappy weapons that do no damage by fusing parts together in order to do the damage that the weapons did previously in the previous game. The difference being is that the enemies do not drop the same quality of weapon as they used to. Because before, usually, a silver moblin would drop a royal weapon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Royal weapons had a fuckload of health and they did a decent amount of damage. Now, they drop tainted weapons, which are half the health and half the damage as the old ones.
Mm-hmm.
But now you can fuse shit to it. Alright, cool, you get to fuse your silver moblin horn to the royal gray sword. Now it does slightly more damage than it used to. Oh, that's neat. And it also has maybe the same amount, if not a little bit more health. Ooh, that's really neat.
You can fuse a tooth.
Or you can fuse all the garbage, like Bakulan things. You know, it's... The weapon durability system, I think, is actually worse in Tears of the Kingdom, because the enemies don't start dropping, at least in my case. They did not start dropping higher quality equipment until after I had beaten all the fucking temples.
Mm-hmm.
Shit was dropping traveler's swords and shit.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, I could either waste all of my time beating these enemies that have way more health than my weapons can possibly do damage. Well, why don't you... I know what you're thinking, dear viewer. Why don't you equip some of your stronger monster bits to your weapon, and then it would do a lot of damage. The problem being is they were only dropping shit weapons. So even if I attached a good quality item to it, it would still not do that much damage, and it would break real quick. So it'd be a waste.
I got a weapon that does 70 to end, it's broken.
Yeah. Master Sword, when you get in, it legitimately does, I think, 7 hits. At least it fucking feels like it.
Until you fight Ganondorf.
Until you fight Ganondorf, and then suddenly it's a weapon. And I found out how much damage it does. It's just back to where it was in fucking Breath of the Wild at 60, around Gloom.
It's the strongest it's ever been.
It's the strongest it's ever been, you know? What it was.
I mean, since it isn't a sequel to Breath of the Wild, I guess it could be the strongest it's ever been.
You know, that's
since
fair.
it was broken.
That's fair. This weird alternate timeline where the Master Sword breaks because it's made of fucking paper mache and toothpaste.
With so many weapon-making materials so readily available, it just doesn't feel like it matters. The weapon degradation actually draws me into more fights with strong monsters.
I had the opposite effect happen.
It felt like a grind and it wasn't fun.
Yeah, because the combat is still bad.
You end up wasting more resources than you get from beating all these enemies.
Yeah, the combat in Breath of the Wild is not good. It's serviceable. The combat in Tears of the Kingdom is also not good, but it's the same combat, so it's still serviceable.
It never changed. Combat never changes.
War never changes.
Sorry, war never changes. Doesn't
So-
combat evolve?
Oh, my favorite character, John Halo.
On Halo.
Because I know I will always be rewarded with strong weapons for my efforts.
He has not shown him I don't think he's shown himself fighting a single silver thing this entire video.
No, he did. Remember, he pushed it under a building.
Oh, right.
That was a silver Lazapos.
Yeah, it was a silver. You're right. Okay, I'm retarded.
He had to glitch it.
His weapon was doing decent damage, but that was also Captain's Horn 3
Yep,
or
Captain's
whatever the
Horn,
fuck.
and it was probably a decent base sword.
It was probably the Zonai base sword, so it does extra shit.
Mhm.
Or a Gerudo one, which does double damage.
However, if you truly hated the weapons breaking in Breath of the Wild, if the act of your weapons breaking is simply intolerable to you,
Which it's not for me. It annoys
It's
me,
annoying.
but it's not intolerable. It's just
I still beat the game.
I beat the game. I still had fun with Breath of the Wild. I did not have much fun with Tears of the Kingdom. After a bit. I was at first.
then it's still going to be intolerable to you in the sequel. If all you
It's not a sequel.
hated was the
Not.
fact that weapons broke at all, you will still hate it. There's nothing for you here. You'll just have to go enjoy one of the other literally dozens of great games that have been released in the past year. But moving on. In some ways, Tears of the Kingdom feels more like a remaster or a remake of Breath of the Wild than an actual sequel to it. There have been
So
several
it's not a sequel?
high-profile remakes this year, like
Yes. An issue with this game, a major one that you're not touching on, the story.
Mm-hmm.
Dead Space and Resident Evil 4. When I played the Resident Evil 4 remake, I felt like I was playing an updated version of Resident Evil 4, a new version of the exact same game, exploring
Which
the
is
same
what it was supposed to
places,
be.
fighting the
Yep.
same enemies, while fixing some of its flaws, adding in some cool new abilities and areas, making it easier and more fun to play. I felt the same way about Tears of the Kingdom. When I
Which isn't
play
how it was
it, I
supposed to be.
feel like
That is the thing, though. That is not what you should be feeling, because it was marketed as a sequel to Breath of the Wild. But at post-launch, they retroactively went, no, it's meant to be standalone. So you shouldn't be thinking about Breath of the Wild in any way other than it's either a prequel to this game, or not at all. You should not be thinking of it as a remake.
Yeah, nope.
I'm just playing Breath of the Wild, except a lot better.
No.
No.
I'm re-exploring the exact same locations. I'm fighting a lot of the exact same monsters. I'm meeting the exact same characters again. Even the
You are not meeting the same characters.
Not at all.
They actually had character in the last one and voice acting. There is a lot less voice acting in this one. At least it feels like it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what's happening because it happened to me at first. Before I accepted the fact that this game is not a sequel, I was also like, Riju, I know that character. She's really fun. But once I accepted this game is not a sequel, it is standalone, all of a sudden all the previous character traits no longer exist because they don't re-exhibit those traits. The characters are thin. They weren't... I'm not going to pretend that Breath of the Wild had big old, grand characters, but there was enough to like them.
What they did have was characters that could be built on in a sequel.
They did have that.
Too bad we never got the sequel to Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
We're still waiting for that to come out.
It's a real shame,
we-
honestly.
Instead, we got this game.
I can't wait to see what kind of leader Riju is when she's older, considering if you read her diary, it's all talking about how wasn't exactly comfortable about being put in charge of
Oh.
the Gerudo at so young. And other,
Mm-hmm.
or Sidon, who's like trying to become a great king and whatnot. Well, he became a king in this one. Congratulations, he doesn't.
His sister.
Hey, congratulations, he doesn't really deserve it. He didn't do anything.
Uh-uh. He cleaned
Oh,
poo.
and he did clean poo. So I guess the greatest sewer worker of all time does.
He cleaned poo and he made a whirlpool of poo.
Yeah,
That Link could go do all the work. Why isn't Link the king of the Zora?
right.
He did all the real work.
No, the fucking I refuse to say these are the same characters. They have this. They're caricatures wearing a skin.
Mm-hmm. Hey, this is what it would be like if we decided to do this. It's a what-if game.
Here's the same character, but not really. Hell,
What
even
would happen if this character was stupid?
Zelda's not really the same, which is fucking bizarre.
Zelda's an intellectual. She's super nerdy, super scientific, and this game just kind of got rid of all that.
In this game, she's just kind of a wizard that turns into a
You're
dragon.
a hairy wizard.
Even
Balls a rock.
and like, oh, but you see, she had because in Breath of the Wild it talks about how if you find her journal and whatnot, it talks about how basically a lot of things happen at once, so she has no one to teach her how to use her magic, and it's not happening, and she's very self-conscious, and yada yada yada, and Link's amazing at everything, so it makes her feel even worse about herself, and all these fantastic characterization things going on in the background.
Right?
None of that's here. Fuck you.
But thankfully, time powers and light powers, when you combine them together, can stop dragons.
That's right.
Exploring the exact same locations. I'm fighting a lot of the exact same monsters. I'm meeting the exact same characters again. Even the story feels very similar in some ways.
It does feel similar in a bad way. What if we took...
I already played this game. Why am I playing it again?
Alright, what if we took out the, instead of, well, why is the world a shithole? Oh, well, the calamity happened 100 years ago, and it's been long enough to where people kind of forgotten about it and accepted the world is the way it is. But some people are paranoid about it returning. To, why is the world a shithole? I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Why is
I think it would have been better to replay Breath of the Wild and played it on Master Mode.
Yeah.
Except this time, it's been done bigger and been done better. It
Bigger, yes. Better, no.
feels fuller, denser, more creative, more fluid this time around. Just the way
It's definitely probably more creative. It's just creative in all the wrong ways.
It's dense for a dense audience.
Yes.
good remake would. In a year of
But that's the thing, though, Nitwit.
I hope he hits a lily pad.
That'd be fun. But this game isn't supposed to be a remake. It's standalone.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a big issue.
fantastic remakes, I think Tears of the Kingdom may actually be the best remake of them all.
No.
A remake.
In a year where Dead Space remake came out, it is not. This isn't even close to as quality as Dead Space remake's version of a remake, or even Resident Evil 4's.
Or if they even up the graphics for anything that would actually make an update, like a remake.
Yeah, it's okay. Want to talk about like other all remakes of all time? Fucking Ocarina of Time on the 3DS was a better remake.
Mm-hmm. We don't talk about Majora's Mask though.
No, Majora's Mask 3D can go die in the pit.
That was a travesty. Why did they nerf a single-player game?
What if you made the Deku shit? Hell, fucking the Xenoblade Chronicles remastered was better than. That's a remaster, though, not a remake, but.
Andrew, remember chasing after the butler in Majora's Mask? Well, get ready for it to be a whole lot harder.
Yeah.
Tangent over.
I don't think he has anything else, but that was certainly a video.
No, that is classified as a video.
I'm glad I could share this pain with you, Aura.
I'm glad we can share it with the audience. Sharing is caring.
all 5
We
people
care
that'll
about our
watch
audience.
this. Unless this guy's a massive channel, in which case I imagine a few of them will come this way and bitch. But hey, maybe they can convince us in the comments about why we're wrong.
Or why we're right. We'd like to hear if we missed anything, and just comment if you can.
So let us know. Were we right? Were we wrong? Are we just old jaded assholes, or are we righteous, correct individuals? I'll leave it up to you, my wonderful audience. Have yourself a good night or day, whatever time it is when you watch this.
3 days.